You're listening to How to Drink Less, and I'm your host, Adriana Cloud. Whether your goal is to cut back, take a break, or say goodbye to alcohol for good, this podcast will help you stop drinking on autopilot, learn how to manage cravings, and feel fully in control around alcohol. It's easier than you think. Listen on to find out how. Hi friends, welcome back. I am so glad you're here. Today I want to talk to you about one of the most common traps people fall into when they're trying to change their relationship with alcohol. I see so many people who want to drink less, they want to get better at managing their drinking or to stop drinking, they want to feel in control, but they're always telling themselves that now is not the right time to try to cut back. I'll be the first to admit that I did that for a long time myself. I'd known for a while, for years in fact, that the way I was drinking wasn't good for me and it was a slippery slope. And even though I was pretending to ignore that truth, deep down I knew that at some point I would have to do something about my drinking. I would have to make some changes. But I had an endless supply of excuses for why now was not the right time to embark on this journey. For quite a while, my blanket excuse was that I was going through a really hard time in my personal life. There were some challenging circumstances I had to navigate, and I was processing a lot of grief. And so I told myself that I couldn't deal with that emotional turmoil without alcohol. My story was that alcohol was helping me to manage those emotions that I didn't really want to feel, like sadness and fear and heartbreak and anxiety for the future. I really had no idea how to handle any of these emotions except to drink at them, and so that's what I did for several years. But then, when my personal life became a bit more stable, I still found other excuses, both for why I was drinking a lot and for why it just wasn't a good time to try to cut back. Work was always a big excuse. I was an editor and project manager in my previous career, and while publishing is not brain surgery, and to the best of my knowledge, no one's life has ever been endangered because a book was published late, somehow work was always busy and stressful, and that's all the permission I needed in order to allow myself a few drinks every night so I could unwind and relax. And if it wasn't work stressing me out, then it was the holidays coming up, and who in their right mind would try to drink less in December? Might as well wait for the new year and start fresh in January, or so I told myself. But then January would come around, and suddenly I was convinced that there was no way to get through the bleak darkness of winter without drinking. Because what other joys could there possibly be in January and February if one couldn't enjoy a few drinks in the evening? How else would we survive the fact that the sun set at 4 p.m. and it was freezing outside? And then it was my birthday coming up, and of course I couldn't possibly not drink on my birthday. Or I had an out-of-town visitor to entertain, or a reservation at a fancy restaurant where they did matching wines for every course, and I definitely couldn't miss that. And so it went, week after week, and month after month, and yes, year after year, where I knew I was drinking too much. And one part of me wanted to do something about that before the problem got worse. But the much louder part of me kept saying, not right now. I know I'm not alone. We all do this, and here's why. Because we're worried that making this change will be uncomfortable, whether we're just trying to drink less or take a break or stop altogether. And we think that if we wait until the right time, we can avoid at least some of that discomfort. We have this perfectionist fantasy that if we start at the most opportune moment, then it will be smooth sailing and we'll ensure ourselves against failure. And that's why we make excuses and we keep postponing the start date. But I have bad news for you. It's not going to get easier if you wait. The stars will not magically align to move all temptation out of your way. There will always be the next deadline and the anniversary dinner and the in-laws coming for a visit and a hectic Wednesday when every single thing goes wrong, and possibly a friend who might tell you that you're not fun if you're not drinking. So you could wait to start on a Monday or on the 1st of June or the 1st of January or after you're back from your holiday in Hawaii. But that will not actually help you to avoid the discomfort of facing up to the reality of your drinking and the impact that alcohol has on your life and just how dependent you are on it. You will still need to reckon with that reality whenever you start. And in fact, the longer you delay, the harder it's going to be to break the habit because every time you repeat the same pattern, you're reinforcing it. Every time you drink because you're overwhelmed, your brain learns that alcohol is a requirement for relaxation. And every time you turn to alcohol to help you enjoy a night out, you reinforce the association between alcohol and fun. The more we repeat a behavior, the more automatic it becomes, like brushing your teeth, for example. You've done it so many times that you no longer have to think about it consciously. It has turned into a kind of muscle memory. And it works the same way with drinking. If night after night you make yourself a gin and tonic to sip on while you're preparing dinner, that becomes the default program your brain operates on. So you get to a point where you find yourself pouring the gin on autopilot without even consciously deciding to open the bottle. That's one downside of waiting to start cutting back, that the habit becomes stronger the more you do it, so it becomes harder to break it. And this is true of any habit, but with drinking, what also happens is that over time, you develop a tolerance for alcohol, and so you start to need more in order to achieve the same effect. If at some point you could get a pleasant buzz just from one glass of wine, eventually you will need two glasses to feel that buzz, and then three, and then four, and so on. And the more you drink, the more your brain learns to rely on alcohol, whether it's to help you to relax or to feel less anxious or to get in the mood for intimacy with your partner. The more you drink, the more dependent you become on alcohol. So giving it up starts to seem harder and harder the longer you wait. It's like if you hire an assistant and at first you're having them just handle your calendar for you, and that's it. But over time, you start asking them to answer emails for you and book trips and pick up your prescriptions and make a website for you and handle your social media and do research for you and so on. You see how the more things you delegate to them, the more you start to depend on them, and the more challenging it will be to let them go. You start to feel like you couldn't possibly get by without them. It'll be too hard. And it's the same with alcohol. The more tasks, quote unquote, you delegate to alcohol, the more things you use alcohol for, the harder it is to stop drinking. And that's what you're doing when you keep drinking and telling yourself that now is just not a good time to cut back, but you will for sure try to get your drinking under control right after you're back from your trip to Paris next month. Let me be clear, this is not everyone's experience. There are some people who effortlessly can taper off. For some people, they might drink a fair amount in college and in their 20s, but then as they get older and they get a job and settle down and start a family, they naturally cut back, and alcohol is just not an issue. They might still drink sometimes, but not daily, and they can really take it or leave it, and it's just not a concern. They're not dependent on it. But if you're here listening to this podcast, I'm going to venture a guess that that hasn't been your experience. If you're here, odds are that as the years have gone by, you found yourself in the other group, the people who drink progressively more. And again, if that's you, odds are that your drinking will continue to get worse over time. If you could have spontaneously cut back, you probably would have done that by now. The other thing that happens when you tell yourself that now is not the right time to cut back is that you're delaying your freedom. You are putting on hold the life that you truly want to be living, and you're keeping yourself suffering for longer. And that's just depressing all around. So here's my invitation for you. And not just an invitation, but a plea. Don't wait any longer. Don't wait until Monday. Don't wait until after your best friend's wedding. And don't wait to feel perfectly ready, because you might be waiting forever. Start today. Start on a Friday. Start even if you've already been drinking this week. And even if you already have plans tomorrow night to go to your favorite bar where the server pours your glass of Shiraz the moment you walk in the door. Start anyway. Because the reality is, whenever you start, it's always going to be uncomfortable. I'm sorry, I wish I had better news for you, but there are parts of this journey that will challenge you and exhaust you and bring you to the edge of your sanity. There will be moments that suck. That's the truth. You already know this. If it were easy breezy, you would have already done it. But just because it's not all easy breezy doesn't mean that you can't do it, and it doesn't mean that it's not worth doing. The best strategy I can recommend is to normalize and accept that changing your relationship with alcohol will be uncomfortable. Brace yourself for that discomfort. Lean into it. Tell yourself, yes, this is uncomfortable, and I still want to do it. Commit to showing up anyway because of who you want to be on the other side of this work. And here's the good news. You're already a pro at dealing with discomfort. You're already uncomfortable now, drinking the way you're drinking. That's the part of the story that we somehow forget to tell ourselves. That our drinking is a problem, and that alcohol is already causing all kinds of discomfort and even suffering. Physical, mental, emotional, all kinds. When you can be honest about that, you realize that the choice isn't comfort on the one hand and discomfort on the other. The choice is which flavor of discomfort you want. One keeps you stuck, the other moves you forward. And if discomfort is part of the deal either way, then what are you really waiting for? You might as well start today. Start even if you're not ready. Start knowing that you won't do it perfectly, because no one is perfect. Because the sooner you start, the sooner you get to build the life you want to be living. That's what I've got for you today. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll talk to you soon. If you're looking for practical advice for how to say no to alcohol and say yes to yourself, you will want to get on my email list. Sign up to receive my free guide with 7 steps to kickstart your sobriety. The link is in the show notes, so go and grab it now, and I'll see you soon in your inbox.